in order for them to sell these plugins to you, it's a lot easier for them to sell something that's familiar or what you think is familiar.
You mentioned some plugins there. So do you have your top 5 plugins that you need for every session?
No. Then you have to do shit that you don't want to do. You got to sacrifice.
Welcome to the Made in the Studio podcast, where we spotlight some of the creatives behind your favorite songs. I'm your host, Desmond A., and today we have a special guest. Today's guest has engineered for popular recording artists such as Gucci Mane, Summer Walker, 21 Savage, Miss Latto, Currency, and much, much more. It's with great pleasure that I introduce to the podcast platinum engineer Evan Melville. Evan, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Yo, I appreciate you for having me. Yeah, that was a dope introduction. I need to bring you around to hype me up. Yo, you was saying that I was like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Just starting from the tip top of your journey, how did you get into music in the first place? And then how did you get into engineering more specifically?
I've always been into music, just as all of us. Growing up, I was little, loved Michael Jackson. We all love Michael Jackson. Loved dance hall. And I think I was like in second or third grade. Whenever that Sammy song, you remember that Sammy song I like? I was like, yo, I want to be a singer, at the time. So I had all my focus on like wanting to be a singer. I used to sing and dance. Well, this is I was a kid. My mother, she had got me I was in third grade. She got me one of those little tape recorder joints, the Home Alone walkie joint. You remember?
Yep.
Yeah. She had got me one of those. And so me and my best friend at the time, Leon, we had recorded a song. It was a Spider-Man song. We recorded the song on there. I was like, yo, we about to make it. And so I got a little older, still, the dream was to be a singer and then, the dance and whatnot, and so I started, this is when boy bands was a thing, like in the early 2000s, like, I'm about to do, all black boy band. I'm not thinking about like, Take Five or like, what was it, High Five? I'm not
Yep.
thinking, yeah, I'm not thinking of all of that because it's like, it's 2000s. Making a group and then, we was recording off like a little radio. And I was listening back. I was like, "Ew, who is that? Who is that?" And it was like, "Evan, that's you." And I was like, "What?" And I hated my voice. I was like, "Oh shit, this isn't gonna work." But I still like making music, So that turned into me wanting to be more of a musician, producer. So I started learning how to play instruments. And then I think I was like 15. I seen this show called Love Monkey. And because at this time, we in high school, and I'm like, okay, I got to figure out what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. And at that point, I ain't think about. I already gave up like trying to be a singer. But then I seen the show called Love Monkey on the spring break. That gave me an idea. I was like, yo, I'm gonna start a record label. So like, I was like, okay, how do I start a record label? Because I didn't know what I was doing. And Google is like, yo, get an interface, get a computer, get a microphone, and get a business license. So I did that.
Wow.
And I realized, and they were teaching me how to like Google was telling me to basically start a studio. And
Exactly. That's what I'm
yeah. I didn't know any better. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get the means to record, and I'm gonna start recording and start learning how to make beats, and then I'm gonna find artists to record. So I would find artists from my school to record, and that just turned into a whole thing. I did start a record label, didn't know what I was doing, but got the license, and I got a couple artists, no contract. And then I'm doing everything. I'm doing the video, I'm booking like the shows, and I'm making the beats. I'm recording. Oh yeah, no, but I'm doing all of this, and none of it was being done properly. So but we are so proud of what we were doing because we didn't think that we could do it ourselves. So eventually, I have ran into a guy named Brandon Richburg. He passed not too long ago, but he started to mentor me, and because I was in a band, and he used to arrange music for our marching band.
Okay.
So post high school, he said, oh yeah, he was like, yo, you should get the audio engineering degree so you could get a job at a studio. And I said, yeah, I'm gonna do that so I can make contacts and kind of infiltrate my way into the industry. So, I started doing that, and I'm recording more. I'm recording more. That's what I found out my superpower was without even knowing it was actually recording. At the time, like when I was trying to start a record label, I didn't know, they hired engineers and hired producers. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to do everything myself. I'm supposed to connect the dots and put everything together.
Right.
I didn't know that till like later, but I fell in love with engineering because and I was producing as well. 'cause then I realized what I really like to do was actually, like, make records. And me producing an engineer, brought me to that realization. Cause, and then I gotta go back, being in elementary school and as a child when Cash Money and Bad Boy and No Limit, when they were dropping all those records, I was like, "Oh my god." I used to stay by the radio to figure out what they were gonna drop next because it was just crazy. I was like, "Man, yo," I was in love with the way that they would drop the records that they were dropping, the way they was dropping records. So that led me to me like, "Okay, I wanna start a record label," leading me to like, "Okay, I wanna create the records." And so, I went to school for like 6 years because I kept changing my major and withdrawing at the end of the semester after they sent the refund checks. I would I would be in class, I'm like, "I don't wanna do this no more," and walk out. So it took me 6 years to get the audio engineering degree. 'Cause, first I started out, with, music and business. With music, it was gonna get a BA in, music, and my, concentration was trombone because I was a trombone player. I was trying to do a double major, music and business, and then it changed into electronic engineering, and then that changed to recording engineering. And then I finished out with, recording engineering. After that, we came to Atlanta and, put in my resume and cover letter to all the studios. Patchwerk was the only one that called me back. When I did the interview, Toya interviewed me. I didn't get the position because she said, I didn't get the position, but I was going on my way back to North Carolina. She called me and she said, "Hey, do you still want to intern?" Because somebody dropped out. I was like, "Yep." And so that started my professional career.
Okay. So when you went to school for audio engineering in music business, would you say any of that information helped you in your current role right now?
I didn't pay attention. I ain't going to hold you. I realized in like my senior year of high school, because I always knew that there was something wrong, but I didn't realize until I was a senior in high school and we had to fill out applications for like colleges. And I was in school and I was sitting there in the library. I was like, I ain't gonna never make it. I ain't gonna be shit because I can't focus. I realized I was like, oh, it clicked. I was like, yo, that's the problem. I knew there was something wrong, and I was like, I couldn't focus. I was always in la la land, and that was something I couldn't help. And then I couldn't articulate it because I didn't know that it was an issue. Looking back, it sort of it slowed me down a lot. And because I was in la la land a lot, I didn't know a lot of things, and I had to figure it out. So by the time I got to school, that's why, with college, if I recognize anyone that could like, stay focused and, get the stuff done, I was like, okay, then you need to do certain things. When I was in school, the one thing that I took was communicating with my superiors or my teachers, communicating with them and having a relationship with them, and, having a relationship with people in school. And Dr. Randy Kohlenberg, he was my trombone instructor because I used to bullshit, and he used to call me out on bullshit. And for music, I was supposed to do a trombone piece or whatnot, and a part of being a music major, you had to be they have these practice rooms, and you have to dedicate on your own time, like an hour or 2 to practice in those rooms. I never practiced. And he knew it. I used to bullshit him, and he knew it. He was like, "Yo, Evan, I hear you. You're not practicing." And I'm like, "Yo, man, Mr. Dr. Kohlenberg, I'm practicing." He's like, "Evan, you bullshit." Stop bullshitting me. One of the exams, we had to play a piece, and I actually practiced for like a week. And he said, "Evan, I could tell you practiced for a week. See, the week that you practice, look at the results you got." So I learned that is, you can't bullshit someone who knows what bullshit is, and practicing is very important, whether you wanna do it or not. And practicing at the last minute, doing it at the last minute will rob you of a great final piece, a great final moment.
Would you say that that translates into your current role as an audio engineer? Can you like pick out when an engineer doesn't quite know what they're doing? They didn't put in the reps. You could just say like, you skip steps and I can pick that out.
Yes and no. I'll analyze when someone is nervous or where their shooting skills is at, because we're not gonna know everything. However, I've ran into people who've been doing it for as long as I have, they aren't as swift or smooth with it. But then I've ran into someone who did it for 3 months, and then they could charm the room, or they have good critical thinking skills. So would that translate for me, that particular scenario, well, for me personally, it was I always need to prepare for sessions, and if I have something, like, booked in advance or whatnot, I need to maybe making sure that I have everything worked out. I need to be making sure that, I'm doing whatever I need to do. I need to be making sure, like, I need to practice because even now, I have to practice. Like, there's days if I work every day, but if there's times that I don't work, I have to put on the computer. I have to move stuff around or just keep my skills sharp. I have to practice because then I'm not in a position to where I could be rusty and then okay, I could get back at it. It's like every chance I have is like, sort of like my last chance.
You mentioned you can spot when someone's nervous, and a lot of times in recording studios, sometimes people have the technical skills, but maybe their personality is a bit off and they don't know how to, communicate to multiple artists at once, or they get flustered when something happens on Pro Tools. So, how important would you say are the soft skills, the communication skills, those non-technical skills when it comes to the actual recording studio?
That's the most important part. Like literally, we would say the technical part is, but you could always find someone technical to solve your issues. And which is the sad part because I spent so much time, engineers, you mean like an engineer, we spend so much time on the technical part. But what making the person that's in the room or everyone in the room more comfortable is very important. So when you have hiccups or whatnot, they're more understanding and they're not gonna give you a hard time. Or if they give you a hard time just by like joking or whatnot, they'll joke or whatnot. It'd be like it'd be jokes. But when you kind of ease the room, everyone is more comfortable with you. You have a smoother session. When they have confidence in you, you have a smoother session. Even if like I've ran into engineers, they literally be fucking up. Can I curse on here?
Good to go.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they be fucking up. I literally have sat behind engineers and watched them. They're like not even looking at the preamp or nothing. They fucking up, but they have like a dope personality. They have swag. They make and then they have sort of a name, so they make people feel comfortable with them, and they know how to talk real good. So I found out that that's the most important part. And for me, my journey, even now, so I've been working at doing this professionally for 12 years, right? I like marrying the two because I don't want to disregard the technical part because at the core of my base, I do believe in making a good record, which was good, which in its foundation has good recording. So I'll yes, make everyone feel comfortable, but yo, let's make this beautiful masterpiece.
So how do you see audio engineers who go through the, traditional audio school route versus the audio engineers who are kind of more in the trenches? They just get the interface, they pick up some little tips and tricks on YouTube, and they just start recording their phrase right off the bat. Like, are there certain skills that you see in one group versus the other, certain strong points, certain weak points? How do you see the distinction between those two paths?
So one thing I noticed is that the engineer that's in the trenches or whatnot, they're more they have that personality like I was talking about. They have the more personal skills because they're learning and figuring it out, but then they're figuring it out with an individual. They like, okay, I got the interface. I don't know how to record, but I'm gonna record my homie or whatnot. I'm gonna record this artist. There's a lot of great engineers that started out that way and they got with an artist that's big now. I think Mixed by Ali was sort of like that was sort of his path or whatnot. Yeah, yeah, he was just in the trenches, just recording all the time. A lot of the guys that was at Slaughterhouse that they were just recording all the time, and that's how they built up their reputation or built up their skills. In my opinion, I think that might be more valuable because yes, going the school route is good, but the school route is good if you try to get into the studio, but you still have to put in rep. If you do the school route, you still have to be in the trenches and do stuff because like I said, I don't remember nothing from school. I remember how to write. I remember how to write emails to my teacher. Yes, no, I'm lying. I remember how to write emails really good to my teachers. Communicate. I learned how to communicate with the superiors. So, but other than that, yeah, I don't remember nothing from school. And then I would leave school and then I would go home to the recorder. I'll go mess with girls or go to work. So there's guys that be in school that take that route. But I do think that school is important because it opens you up for more opportunities. And I stress this. I can't stress this enough to individuals. Just like if you're doing nothing, do something while you're doing nothing. Do something like yo. You ever seen Napoleon Dynamite?
Yes. Mhm.
Uncle Rico said that to Napoleon. He's like, "Yo, do something when you're doing nothing," and that stuck with me. Do something when you're doing nothing. The studio, working at a studio, opened me up to so much more opportunities.
Mm.
that I wouldn't have gotten just being in the trenches because me personally, everyone has different personalities, and I realized as an adult that I'm not the hey, I'm about to go out and, talk to people and do all of this. Like those guys that are in the trenches and they get successful that way, they have a certain personality to where they could go and, meet people and they could go and get the work and they don't have to, rely on an entity to bring them, opportunities. They go out and get the opportunities, which I find very valuable, you know. So, but and again, I'm learning that now, now where I'm at, I can go out and go get my own opportunities because I had to learn how to do so.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I think both aspects are important, and I believe the path that an engineer or a producer or anyone takes, it is you should take the path that works for you the best. I don't think that one is more valuable than the other. However, I do think that you need to. I don't think you have to learn from both paths. You have to learn from all angles to be successful in anything.
So as you got into Atlanta, as you got into Patchwerk, now you're, that everybody, pretty much everybody knows what Patchwerk
Yeah.
is, Do you recall any sessions that you had, like when you first got there, that you kind of like, you shake your head like, man, I should have been prepared, or man, I messed that up. And, what did you learn from that session?
Man, it was a lot of sessions, a lot of sessions. And let me tell you, I'm gonna tell you a secret. I didn't know about Patrick when I came out to Atlanta. I
Oh,
didn't.
wow.
I didn't. Again, Evan was in La La Land. I didn't know of any famous studios. I couldn't tell you a famous engineer or nothing, or nothing. I started learning about studio culture and learning about of the engineers when I got into Patchwork. Then I started learning the history. And the culture, and whatnot. I knew producers. Don't get me wrong. I knew producers. I knew background singers. I knew songwriters. Because I wanted to make records. But as far as engineering, dude, I didn't even know engineering was an actual job until I got out here. Didn't even know it was an actual job. The dude, my mentor was like, so you could get a job at a studio. It didn't click to me that you get paid to engineer. It didn't click to me. To answer your question, there was a lot of sessions where I wasn't diligent and it bit me in the ass. There was this one time I accepted a session. I already worked until like 1 in the morning, and this session was at 10. So the only reason why I accepted the session because they were gonna have another session after that. That was like 3 to 3, a 12-hour session, and I needed the hours. So I was telling him, "I'll do that session, but I'm not gonna do this session because I'm about to get off." And he said, "Whoever's gonna do the morning session is gonna do this session." He tricked me because the second session ended up not happening. So I got off like it was like 1 or 2 in the morning. I got home. I didn't go to sleep until like 6. I don't know what I was doing. I didn't go to sleep till like 6. And I'm talking about I overslept, and the owner calling me, and I get up, didn't even brush my teeth, nothing. I'm running out the house smelling crazy, and I'm rushing down to the studio. Both of the owners are there. They looking at me, shaking their head like, "Yo, come on, dude, come on, dude." And it was the podcast Mama's on the Move. Mama's on the Move. I'll never forget. And then because I wasn't prepared or nothing, and I had to go in and kind of roll into it. They was filming, but then the audio had to be on point, and then the audio kept stopping. So, oh yeah, no, it was terrible. In that instance, I learned that, hey, don't try to just grab everything. If I get off late, especially if you know that, you gotta commute, if you know you gotta, you need your rest because you ain't been asleep for 2 days. If you know that, don't accept it. Don't put yourself in that position. It'll be all right. It's a difference between it's different if I got off at 6 and the session started at 10 and I stayed at the studio. That's a whole different story. I can do that. But then to go home and then bullshit until 6 in the morning and then thinking that you wanna get up at 8, no.
How do you recover from those type of situations, and how do you like keep your reputation and kind of like heal those kind of reputational dings?
Oh man, just stay on point. And I have to say shout out to the owners, Curtis Daniel III and Mike Wilson. Like they've given me a lot of grace over my career. I'm not gonna lie. They've given me a lot of grace over my career, and they help me be better at what I do. And so a lot of times when stuff like that happens, I do beat myself up, but then like, okay, keep trying harder and stop fucking up. Make better decisions. Have better time management. That's one thing that you're an entrepreneur. We're all entrepreneurs. That's one thing that kills us is the time management. And so learning how to master that. Yeah, definitely letting them chew me out, letting like let them like take the ass whooping. At that point, I couldn't even make no excuses. And Mr. Curtis, he was like, "Yo," he said, "Yo, just communicate. If you was gonna be late, you need to say I'm gonna be late."
Some people make those mistakes and take it super personally, and they kind of like, maybe even want to quit. But like you said, you just got to take that licking, take that beating, and then, it makes you stronger, it makes you tougher, for
Absolutely.
next time. You've been in the music game and you've been out here in Atlanta for a while. So you've seen a lot of different phases, you've heard a lot of different sounds. How would you describe the Atlanta sound when you started in Atlanta as an engineer versus where you're hearing it right now?
That shit is different. It's scary different. I'm gonna take a step further. So the sound that I like when I was, because I'm from North Carolina. When I lived in North Carolina, the sound that I was hearing when I was in North Carolina from Atlanta, I was like, "Yo, this is crazy." I'm talking about Jazzy Faye, Lil Jon, The Dream, Tricky Stewart, Shawty Red. I'm talking about you know that era. I was like, "Yo, I got to get out there. I got to do something." You know what I'm saying? Ke on the track. You know what I'm saying? And then it shifted to Lex Luger and Southside. I was on that wave, and then when I came out here, it was different. I don't even remember or what was popping around there, but it was completely different. It was completely different. Now you getting the London and the Done Deals or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Because Thug is starting to pop at this point when I first came out here, and but from when I first started in North Carolina to when I first got to Atlanta, it was different. And when I first got here to now, it's completely different. And then it's different in a way to where Atlanta was more Atlanta. The sound of the culture was here. Now, especially what I see on social media, the music now is more like everywhere, you know? So you see the guys in the UK is doing, the same stuff that, whatever Baby whatever off, Cleveland Ave is doing. But someone in Toronto is doing the same sound. It's like they're all it's not the same. It's not an Atlanta sound. It's more of a everywhere sound. That's at least what I'm noticing, you know? Shout out to social media.
What was the first major label recording artist that you ever worked with out here?
Ray Shrimmer or Ty Dolla $ign. Ray Shrimmer, Shrimmer Life 2, and then I recorded Ty Dolla $ign in December of 2014.
Okay.
I think it was December 2014 or 2015. I know that song actually went out and, became something, so I was excited. I was like, "Oh, I recorded that song."
Oh, that's what's up. So, do you remember? Were there any memorable moments from any of those sessions that you can recall?
Not necessarily not necessarily the Ray Shrimmer session, but the, Ty Dolla $ign session. I remember Spins, he had produced the track and he was behind me, and so I'm moving, I'm doing my thing, and he was trying to tell me to do something, but then I was already doing it, and he's like, "Oh, alright." You know, it's like I'm like, "Nigga, I got this," you know what I'm saying? He but knowing what I know now is that was a cocky move on my end because, he 'cause he's the producer and he was trying to produce, and I wasn't used to that because usually in my chair, when you record independent people, the engineer is the producer. So I'm used to that. So when a major artist come and then the producer come and the producer's actually producing, it's like, okay. And then in that instance, and then it wasn't until after the fact I had to learn to let the producer produce instead of me producing.
It makes sense, and it's good that you 2 were able to communicate, but, there are certain instances where engineers do, in fact, deal with maybe short-tempered artists, short-tempered producers, and people who just are on you. Like, how do you how do you deal with that short-tempered recording artists, and, like, how would you advise the younger engineers out there deal with that? The artists who want you to do 2 things at once, and
Every engineer, every producer gotta go through that. Everybody gotta go through that. And I hate it. I hate it. However, I became a way better engineer, way better person, way better man dealing with that. Because then you have to have a level of composure to where the stuff can still get done. My band director, he one thing he always told us is keep your composure. And in those instances, I had to learn it. I know, like, there was a couple of times where I ain't gonna lie, I ain't gonna hold you. I lost it. I done been kicked out of a few sessions. Well, however, I always had the best turnout when, you have the short temper artist, but you still keep your cool and you still doing what they saying, or the short temper producer, and then you still doing it. They say, yo, do this, and just you gotta stay focused, and then you gotta, okay, what is the goal? And the goal could be anything. My goal is always the best record needs to happen. The best, we need to have the best record needs to happen. Your goal could be, let me get through this session, or your goal be, let me get this money. But you need to know what the goal is, and then keep that in mind. And then you got to understand that emotions come and go. You matching someone else's emotions is not going to help you, because that emotion could go, but the memory of you reacted to that is always going to be there.
Right.
The emo and I had to learn, and I still even learn that, okay, so as a man, and you talking to your lady, and you can't say certain things to her, because, like, especially in the moment, because even if y'all have an emotionally charged moment, what you said, the emotions will dissipate, but what you said stays. And I always have to remember that. It's like, okay, I can't react. I'm like, okay, no, let me just do the best. Let me just do the best. And it's been times where, I'm still doing it. And then, then the artist or the songwriter is like, yo, 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 and I'm doing what I need to do. And then later at the end of the session, he's like, yo, I know I was difficult to deal with, but you held it in there. I want to keep working with you. I want to keep working with you. And so I did. And then so when I finally hear that, and then I didn't notice that they were being difficult, but then I still was like, and it made them appreciate me. I was like, okay, at the end of the day, we're all emotional human beings. And then if you want to accelerate in life, if you want to go on in life, if you want to do something big or do something great, you have to deal with all different types of personalities. And this is in any field. You have to deal with all types of personalities, and it is how you react to those personalities, is how you is how you control those personalities, how you command them, or that's what really sticks out, and that's what helps you move forward. Yeah, and I take everything as a learning experience. I had that one of my worst sessions gave me a plaque. That's my first plaque. You know,
Oh, okay.
yeah, my first plaque, and that was the worst session ever. The nigga wanted to smoke in the room, and I'm like, "Yo, you can't smoke in the room." He wanna smoke cigarettes in the room. Like, "Yo, you can't do that." That was the worst session, but then I love that session because it taught me to be assertive.
Let's get into that. So that 21 Savage plaque that you have right there, is that from the Nothing New song?
Yes.
Okay. So kind of walk us through, like, the beginning of the session, how the session was, and the smoking incident.
I ain't gonna even get into details. However, I learned a lot during those sessions, and I learned I'm in control. And I'm not saying that in a cocky type of way, but then again, what we said at the beginning, having that type of personality to where you make people feel comfortable. That's you being in control. You having that personality to make people comfortable, or to make people more persuasive to you, because if they see that you're nervous, or they think that you're a pussy, they're gonna try you. And that was a situation where I'm like, I'm gonna be 100% transparent. I was a pushover. So he's like, yo, I'm gonna do this. I don't care what you say. But then after a while, I was like, "Nah, bro." I do have to point out, because Metro will produce, that project, and I got the first taste of watching. We see the stories on the internet where the Atlanta producer and Atlanta artist, they lock in and they create some magic, and that was my first instance being in the room watching that, and I wish I got to enjoy it more if I wasn't such a bitch and focused on the fucking smoking or whatnot. Knowing what I know now, that session, I would have gotten to appreciate it more. I mean, I do appreciate it because I've learned a lot, but I would have got to appreciate it more if I wasn't so like, oh my God, you're smoking. It's the end of the world. And it wasn't. And it wasn't. And I was in control the whole time, but then me being, so that kind of, you know, made it not what it needed to be. So, yeah, but no, I got it taught me how to be more assertive, calm down, and actually take control of the room, because there's different ways that you could do that without being you don't have to be aggressive. There's certain ways to talk to people, or there's certain ways to handle situations, and I learned it through that situation. But nah, looking back, I used to say, "Oh man, that was the worst session ever," but it was like that was the best session ever. Like that shit was amazing. And again, I wish I wasn't such a bitch at the time, because I would have got to enjoy some magic being happening, because we got prime time Metro booming.
Right.
I'm talking about Metro was in there laying it down, and I worried about some goddamn smoking. Fuck that smoking, man.
Powerful story. So it's like everything that you go through, man, you're walking away with like a ton of lessons. So
You
that
you have to. If you have to, if everything you do, you don't look at what you learned from it, then why what are you living for? Like, I used to work at Walmart. I took away so much stuff from working at Walmart, like stuff that I use today, because Walmart was big on customer service. What I do, right now, customer service. In every situation that I'm in, I try to take away something from it. And now if I'm in a situation and I'm not taking nothing from it, I don't need to be in that situation. You always need to be learning. You always need to be learning and growing and being a better person and, all of that bullshit. You know what I'm saying?
There are engineers right now who are contemplating their future and they want to know, should they aim to work at a commercial recording studio, whether it's a mid-size or a large-size studio, or should they aim to kind of be the celebrity recording engineer that travels with that recording artist? Have you seen both of those type of engineers, and what are your thoughts on that?
I believe you do what's best for you. You gotta assess your situation, assess what type of person you are, and assess what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're able to do. But because I've seen both, and both people, both engineers have prosperous careers. However, you can't be in one situation and want something that you can't handle. So like with me, I have a family, I have community, I have, there's certain things that I wanna, do in life, and me being a traveling engineer, it doesn't fit, so I've had the opportunity, I've a few times, I've had the opportunities to be someone's traveling engineer, like, I did it once, and it was amazing. I wish that I had that opportunity when I had less responsibility because though it was with the right artist, it was with the right producer. It was this producer is great producer, fair. Because you hear all these horror stories. This dude was the best guy to be around because I'm learning shit. You get opportunities, putting you on, giving you credit. Niggas don't, they don't like giving us credit. However, I went out and it was for 30 days, and I was like, oh shit, I got responsibilities. I had shit I need to be doing, because I had shit to do at the house. I have children, so in two different states. So at the time I'm bouncing back and forth, like, okay, I'm going here, going to North Carolina,
Right.
I'm in Georgia, going to North Carolina, in Georgia. And I have all this other stuff. I had clients that that's like, okay, Evan, I don't work with nobody but you, and so I was like, oh man, but this is the best situation that I could be in. Like not only, okay, I'm gonna get the accolades that, we all want, but then there's no better person to do it with because, this guy is, he's not even in his prime. Sky's the limit for this dude because he's smart and he's talented. But then it's like, yo, I had to make a choice. I was like, oh fuck. You know, so it works out better for me to be in a stationed area because I have to have stability. I have to be able to take care of my responsibilities and, family and shit. And
Yeah.
nah, but man, we went to LA. I was like, yo, this is it. I made it.
Yeah. Just living the dream.
However, I still have me being in a professional studio is I still had a lot of great opportunities because, we came back from LA and I got to work with Shaka Khan. Like I got to vocal produce Shaka Khan. Not like, okay, how people, how people be like, yeah, man, I met this person, I met this, but no, I got to tell Shaka Khan, I'm clicking the button, hey, baby, you gotta do that differently. Hey, do it like, like I got to like, and I think that that's one of the most fulfilling things that I've ever done in my career. I got to vocal produce Shaka Khan. There's no one set blueprint for one engineer or producer or anyone. You could take your own path. You'll have success if you stay focused and keep doing it. And just because something looks nice doesn't mean you necessarily have to have it because you got to be realistic on your situation and who you are as a person. Sometimes we don't be realistic with ourselves.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. No, I had to be realistic quick. I was like, yo, they calling me and it was like, oh, Evan, you were supposed to be doing this. I was like, oh fuck, I got responsibilities.
These days, a lot of people are having conversations about AI in the music game. So,
Oh, it's a wrap. Oh, what does it? That's a question.
so I was going to say, how are you seeing industry professionals using AI in the creative process?
What I've been seeing so far is so a lot of the business guys are overusing Chat GPT. And I'm not saying overusing as like a bad thing, but it's literally your personal assistant. Hey, I need to find this particular piece. Where's it at? and then it tells them, boom, boom, boom. Hey, set up this calendar meeting for this person, this person. So it's a very, very helpful tool. And the people that are using it correctly or using it for their advantage, they're already smart people. These are people that get stuff done. Even in the creative process. Okay, I could make references faster. So they're making so like we have songwriters that are making these references. Sounds really good. And you're a producer, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so when you make these references, in order you'll have a better chance of it getting it placed if it sounds on point.
Yes.
And so, them doing that with AI or whatnot. Now, these professionals that are using it, they're using it in the way that is intended to be used. However, I've been around long enough. You've been around long enough. You remember Napster?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, man, and I'm a kid, and I'm like, "Yo, this is the greatest thing ever." And then I'm watching the news, and then the industry's like, "This is the worst thing ever," because as a kid, it's like, "Oh, I can listen to what I want whenever I want, and I don't have to pay for it." It's like now, there's gonna be people who want to make music. It's like, "Oh, I could make whatever I want when I want, and I don't have to pay for it."
Wow.
And it's really gonna turn into that. However, the people, the chosen ones, and I mean the people who have the best work ethic, who have strategy, who's gonna get to it, they're always gonna be around. Like these business people, great work ethic that is gonna be around. So I know you're in that, yeah, is it gonna affect I know it's gonna affect me horribly as far as my position as an engineer, but it's only gonna affect engineers that only engineer. So
Mm.
if you have a good personality, you have great relationships, if you're doing like vocal producing, if you're doing content like you're doing the podcast, right? If you're doing content, if you're offering more than just I engineer, then those people are good. And the AI is actually helping them produce faster, make stuff faster, Yeah.
Okay, and you mentioned it's going to impact you. Like, in what ways are you saying it's gonna impact your role directly?
It's gonna change my role. Like, I know I definitely have to pivot because, my superpower or whatnot, as far as like tracking, like the fast tracking, all it's gonna take is a voice command. I talk to Siri all the time. I talk to Siri all the time. If you have an audio program that's like a Siri, you like, hey, punch this in, do this, put this right here, but stop, play, whatever, whatever, whatever. That's all it takes. I'm not necessarily saying that I'm going to be like obliterated, but at the same time, I definitely have to pivot, and it will expose me to new clients. But so I'm a quick story. I'm gonna be quick about it. Like so when they first invented the elevator, right? And I always tell the story. And this is why I believe what I believe. They invented the elevator, and you could not operate the elevator without an elevator operator. You could not operate the elevator without an elevator operator for decades, for years, right? They wanted more money, the elevator operators, they wanted more money, so they went on strike. And one hotel, they had made an elevator that you did not need an elevator operator, you could do it manually. And, a job that was I think they had it was I think they had a job for a couple 100 years, or it was a long time, it was crazy. It might be overshooting, but they had the job for long that they obliterated that they whole market. Bam. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so trust me, so, you know
Wow.
we gotta be careful out there, and we gotta offer more than just one thing.
Exactly. Evan, you've mixed a lot of records, you've recorded a lot of records, so you have a whole lot of insight on great music. So, how would you personally define a great mix?
Oh god, that's subjective. That's subjective, and so what I think is a great mix isn't necessarily going to resonate the same way as with someone else. Because I listen to music way differently. I music than the average listener. You listen to music differently than the average listener. For me, I like to be able to hear everything and then feel it. I wanna hear everything and feel it. And so certain things, like sometimes it doesn't have to be super clean, or if that's what it calls for, but if the way it sounds invokes the emotions, then like match the emotions of the arrangement, match the emotions of the songwriting, match the emotions of the singing, when the sonics of it matches, then I'm like, okay, that's a great mix. Man, there was this one mix, that actually made me go out and start following an engineer, like, actually, like, okay, looking up an engineer, like, "Oh, this is the first engineer I actually looked up," and I was like, "Oh, man, I'm interested in, like, looking at all his work." It was, Young Thug and Drake, "Oh You Went." That I heard because I've recorded Thug before, and I remember Thug through his journey. I remember, Danny Glover, when Danny Glover came out, I remember Stoner, all of those songs when and to when I recorded him, when, Staff recorded him, when Alex Toomey was recording him, I remember his sound, then. Now, when I heard, this song, I was like, "Oh, shit, he sounds way different, but it sounds good." You know, it's like, "Oh, this mix sounds good." Like, how the hell did he get him to sound like that? Like,
Yeah.
I could hear every word, every syllable, like, I could understand what he's saying, you know, it's like and then the song was jamming, and I was like, "Oh, man, who mixes? Who mixes?" I found Baines did, and I was like, "Oh, man." So I started following what Baines was doing. I would say, like, the only engineers I've actually, like, learned from were the engineers that worked at Patchwerk. So, you know, and we had some great engineers. We had Mike Wilson, he recorded and mixed a bunch of the songs, R&B songs and rap songs that we knew in our day, like TLC, Monica. He did a bunch of Monica, Missy Elliott, Beyonce. He did them Franchise Boys or whatnot, D4L. Like he did all of this music that we was shaking our ass to when we was little. He did all of that. Then Ray C, he did all the Rick Ross stuff. Like Triller, that album changed my life. Triller, and I'm talking about how I listen to music, how I produce. Like that album Triller changed my life, and they did that. Ray C did it. Then there was another engineer, Staffa. Like so, all of the engineers that I learned from as an engineer, they all worked at Patrick, and Baines was the only one that like I looked at, and I was like, oh man, okay, what is he doing? And I'm watching his videos and stuff, you know, and I was like, oh man, and the stuff that he was doing changed the way that I mix because it made me look at it a lot differently. You know, instead of just like, okay, I'm just gonna do it made me focus on, like, cleaning up a lot more because it made a huge difference. Like, that's when I started using, like, isotopes, like RX and ozone, you know? So, if you know okay, so you know, so it's like, oh, like, that shit makes a difference. Now I use it all the time, you know? I do heavy volume automation, like crazy.
You mentioned some plugins there. So do you have your top 5 plugins that you need for every session?
No. I used to, that will fuck you up. That the best thing that you could ever do is learn what each plugin is doing. I have to have so as far as plugin, I have to have a parametric EQ. I have to have a regular good compressor. I love VCA compressors because you know because they do more of the upward compression and a saturated plugin. I don't care what it is. I don't have a top five. I used to be like, oh, I love this plugin. I we can't get infatuated with the tools because then we'll be boxed. And
Exactly.
it's so many times where I didn't have my computer and I needed to get it, I need to get busy, and then I'm on a computer that don't have the things that I need, but I still need that still need to have my sound. So learning how each plugin affected the sound, learning that was way more powerful because now I could recreate any sound that I want with any plugin. However, I will say that there's a lot of like effects plugins where there's like, okay, they really sound like really good. They're doing something that's not traditional in the other plugins. But yeah, no, I try not to be like, yo, this is my favorite plugin, you know, but no, no. What about you? What you like using?
I'm not mad at some of the Wave stuff, you know? A lot of people say the Wave stuff sounds, cheap and whatnot. I've heard the UAD stuff is great, but,
Yeah.
I've been in, like, different kind of, studios in the trenches, and somehow they all happen to have Waves plugins. I don't know, but I've become so accustomed to just the whole Waves bundle over time, so that's really all I know for the most.
Right, I feel you. The only time I get pissed off if someone don't have the Waves bundle. It's like, how do you not? Everyone has the Waves bundle, and I think that that's a great starting point. I'm not for piracy. Not for piracy. I say get the subscription, the ultimate subscription, but I think that's a great base because everyone has it. Everyone has it. But you know, and when new plugins come out, I try them out. I do collect plugins because I part of my job, a lot of people send sessions over and then I have to they have plugins that I've never seen before, so I have to buy them so I can see what sound it was making. And sometimes I just wasted my money, but it's good because I have that plugin in my arsenal. Oh,
And
I lied.
okay.
My bad. I lied. Standard clip BB Magma tubes.
Okay.
Standard clip BB Magma tubes. And we can have a conversation about that because using a clipper and a good saturator will help that problem of mixing a producer's beat and them saying that you took away the punch from it.
Mm.
I went down that rabbit hole because I found out why that was. I'm about to make a whole video on it. Is I'm telling you, they're trying to keep us down. I'm telling you.
So do you have any particular plugins that you have to have on the master bus each session, or it's the same philosophy?
It's the same philosophy. I went through a period where I didn't have nothing on my master bus but a limiter. Then I said, let me put the SSL compressor on it because, some guy said it gives glue. I hate hot words because they'll say a hot word and they don't even explain what you're trying to achieve with that. And so you could really mess up a mix by putting the wrong things on your mix bus and not knowing why you put it on there if it's necessary. I put the God particle on there. Sometimes I interchange it out. Sometimes I have the God particle on there. Sometimes I have it off because if I'm really driving the low end, it does something weird to the low end that I don't like. If the low end is really dominant. So sometimes I have it in there, sometimes I don't. I've been using Ozone 11 a lot. If I need what I need, as long as it's a limit, I have a limiter at the end, then we could, get it. But sometimes you don't need a limiter. Like I make beats and Pro Tools. I don't even have a master bus. I don't have a master fader. And that's why I found out why the producers don't like us engineers mixing their beats. By me making beats and Pro Tools, I found out why that was. I'm telling you, it's a whole theory.
It's a fancy.
Because it is a conspiracy because it's important to learn the science so you know why something is, right? When I open up a session, I'd open it up. I'd start a session in 32-bit flow. You know what I'm saying? Because my dynamic range need to be like this. Samples that so when you bring in samples and stuff into Pro Tools, it comes in as is. Now, a lot of the like kicks and snares and claps are super clipped, but then once you import it and if you're in 32-bit flow, like the ceiling is like up here. Like of course, there's a digital wall, but it doesn't sound like it's just automatically just clipped off, right? And I think in FL Studio, like that version 11 that they were talking about, it was automatically in 32-bit flow, and then they had that limiter on there. Oh yeah. Oh no, it's deep. No, it runs deep. Cause as soon as I put in if I put if I put anything in an aux or in a bus and I put the master fader in it, it starts being weird. Or I put a clipper on it, it starts being weird. But then I take it off, oh man, it'd be like boom, 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 boom. I'll export it and I'll import it somewhere else and it'd be clipped. I'm telling you, they're trying to hold us down. It's a conspiracy. I went through a rabbit hole and I figured it out.
Do you have any dream sessions or dream artists you would like to, work with, or you pretty much seen it all?
Nah. Doing this, I never got into it and say, I want to work with this person. I've always wanted to be the person that somebody wanted to work with. Or I wanted to, and I know that sounds super like, conceited, but yeah, no, I was like, yo, I'm that nigga. You know what I'm saying? You want to work with me. Me not having people that I wanted to work with, like, I never said, oh, I want to work with this person, I want to work with this person. It opened me up to like working with all these people and then me having like actual like decent sessions because I never fanned out. Oh, I did fan out one time. And I didn't work with them, but it was Justice League. Because Justice League for a while, they were my favorite producers. But when they came through, it was a Drizzy session. I was still an intern. I was like, yo, this is the greatest day of my life. Because I was hearing some beats ain't no one heard before. I was like, yo. But other than that, yeah, like I never like, and I feel bad because I never thought that I was going to work with the people that I work with. Like again, I got to work with Shaka Khan. I got to work with Shaka Khan. I got to work with Regina Bell. I got to work with Monica. I've gotten to work with Bootsy Collins. I've gotten to work with so many people. Like I got to work with Ron Osley, and I get to show my mama like, yo, I work with these people. I work with these people. Like, bro, I got to vocally produce Shaka Khan. That's like the biggest moment of my life, like of my career, is like I get to say that. A lot of people say, yeah, I did this, I did this. I wouldn't say I have a particular artist that I want to work with, like engineering wise, but there are artists that I would love to like produce for because I would like to do more mainstream production, because I do produce, but it's usually, for, independent people. So I would like to do, I would love to, I think I want to do something for 2 Chainz, but I think he might be the only one. I used to want to work with Drake. I used to want to work, and I'm not meaning like record him, but like make a song with him. I was supposed to make a song with Michael Jackson.
Oh,
This
damn.
no, the goal, because my band director, he always wanted to write a song for Michael Jackson. I told myself I was gonna do that for him. My band director died, and this nigga Michael Jackson died. I was like, "Well, niggas, why y'all die? Why y'all gotta go? Like, I got stuff to do." I was supposed to work with Michael Jackson in my head. I didn't the session was set up, but I was supposed to work with him in my head.
So since you're in the real recording studio with all the real gear and whatnot, how close would you say the software versions of the hardware units, how close are they are to each other?
Man, it's not even close. I need to make videos. I'm supposed to make a content about this because first of all, okay, this is the issue. Marketing and hot takes, hot words. That's what confuses a lot of the newer engineers and producers and songwriters, people that are just getting into it. They don't quite know so much the hot words and the marketing. Now, fortunate for me, and I say I am talking from a place of privilege because I've gotten to work in a world class facility that has this gear, so I understand what those gears sound like, so I know the difference. And no, don't get me wrong, some of these clones, they sound good. Some of the plugins, they sound good, but to say that, "Oh, they sounds like this," then no, they don't. They don't, and I hate when they say, "Yo, this sounds like," no, it doesn't. Stop. Stop. It doesn't. But I get it, and then I have to, and like I said, I'm gonna do content on it because it can actually show, but I have to be careful with what I say because I definitely do want to be sponsored. But no, it's completely different, and that's okay. I'm not necessarily bashing plugins because if you need to get it going, you need to get it going. But they don't understand, like the regular people, they don't understand that you get certain sounds from the gear is because of the components, the heat that's going through the component, the electricity. And it took me so long to realize that why saturation matters. And this is one of those things where I didn't pay attention in school, and it could have helped me because the science behind it is they teach you in the school. So I could read a whole book and not know what the fuck it says. So it didn't make no any difference to me. I actually had to be in the studio to realize it because what saturation does. Saturation is just noise. That's all it is. Saturation is noise. Now, a lot of this gear, when they were adding saturation to it inadvertently, because if it was up to the gear makers, they wouldn't have no saturation. But now we love it, and then we treat it as like a full sound. But
Right.
all of this is like adding harmonics, and harmonics is like you have frequencies or whatnot, and it adds like they added more frequencies in the multiples of like either 100 or 200. So you have like odd order harmonics and even order harmonics. So you have gear that like this is the fundamental, right? And it captures the fundamental, but then it also has in 100, it adds some frequency, then it adds some frequency, and it adds some frequency little by little. So it sounds more full or it sounds thicker because it's adding frequencies. So that's what the gear is doing. And so the software is trying to replicate that in a digital realm. Some of it does a good job at it, but it does not sound like the regular gear because there's actual heat. It's like
Right.
physical heat. It's gonna sound different. Now, there's some pieces of gear that I've had, then there were shitty pieces of gear, but they have like low budget components and it didn't sound good. And then there was the software that, this sounds really, really good. It sounds really, really polished. It sounds really, really good.
Mhm.
So me saying that, this doesn't sound like this doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It's just different. But in order for these companies to, sell these plugins, they have to say, yo, this sounds like this. So I know you can't afford this. You could get this instead. Of course, they can't afford this. Of someone just starting out, they're not going to be able to afford this, and they don't have access to it. A lot of them don't know what this sounds like. They don't know what the gear sounds like. They say this sounds like a CL1B. A lot of them don't know what a CLB sounds like. They don't know what it sounds like. But you say this you company say, hey, this sounds like the CLB, the hardware joint. And me as a consumer, because they're treating the engineers as consumers, right? Me as a consumer, they say, okay, I'm never going to be able to afford this, but I could have this on my computer. And they're saying that this is just as good because I don't know any better. So that's my whole thing. That's a conspiracy, and
Yeah.
because if you don't understand if you don't understand electronics, and I like one of my majors was electronic engineering. If you don't understand electronics, if you don't understand saturation or harmonics or whatnot, or components and stuff, like of course you're not going to understand the difference. And I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad thing, but that is definitely a marketing tool in them, exploiting the fact that, a lot of the beginners are ignorant. So I'm not saying ignorant in a bad way, but they're exploiting the fact that they don't know.
Okay, wow. Because, I've always had access to like the Waves 2A and the 76.
Yeah,
And, that's a pretty good combination to work with each other, but it's like, if I haven't been in a real recording studio to really hear what it sounds like, I'm referencing the digital version, and I don't even really know what the hardware version sounds like, so
exactly.
it's
And and,
it's
and the thing is that's not their fault. But
Right.
in order for them to sell these plugins to you, it's a lot easier for them to sell something that's familiar or what you think is familiar. Yeah.
I feel you. Now, speaking of gear, since we're on the topic, do you have a top 3 favorite mics?
Nah. Oh, I'm lying again. I'm lying again. I'm lying again. So I would say my top two favorite mics is the U87 because it's more universal, but then I love the M149. I'm not a fan of the Sony C800 because I do not like the proximity effect. Like, but the proximity effect is, the closer you get, the more bass that, it picks up. And artists, for some reason, they love to get this close to the microphone and they be going crazy on the plosive consonants. Pa, 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 pa. And then with the Sony C800, it boosts the high end, right? So I'm having to cut a lot of the I'm having to cut the low end. I could you so when you cut, the other side boosts. So now it be sounding crazy. And then a lot of times the people that are using the Sony C800, they're using it in an untreated room. So I'm picking up all of this room stuff. And then let's say it has its own power supply. Let's say you plug it into a dirty outlet. Now you got noise in the microphone. You know what I'm saying? I really love the M149. I've never had the privilege of working on an EMI 251. Now, I've been in studios, I had it, but every time I requested so I could play with it, I never got it. But then again, and I have to go back and say I don't have a favorite microphone because you could work with what's ever there. I appreciate the U87 because it's universally at every studio. And if I need a different tone from the U87, I'll get the M149.
You've seen a lot of different producers, a lot of different artists, a lot of different engineers and whatnot. So, what's one common trait that you can see in a producer or an artist that lets you know, okay, this person's going to stick around? And if you don't see that trait, you're like, okay, this person's going to disappear. They're not going to stick around.
Work ethic and network. I can't even say talent. I know that sounds bad. We like to live in fairy tale land. Like, yo, if someone's talented or they have a great story and then they really, really want it, nah, it's work ethic. Like yeah, some of the guys I see make it. Some of all the guys I see make it. You see them at every event. You see them at the studio all the time. They're working with everybody. They have a great network. They're working with everyone. They get the job done and they do it fast. And then they're everywhere and they're always doing it. They're always working. It's work ethic. You can tell who's going to be around. So a producer that is a business person, they know how to conduct business. They know what they need to get what they want. They know how to delegate and they know how to compartmentalize everything they have going on. So they know how to, structure their lives as well as everything around them so they could get the job done at an efficient rate. But they can have work ethic, but then, they come in and they have their bag everywhere. They're like, oh my God, all right, I'm here, guys. What are we doing? And then they're not necessarily organized or whatnot. But okay, if they figure that part out, they're gonna go far.
So, what's one thing that you can hear in a new engineer's mix that you can tell, like, okay, this person is just starting? You hear this one thing, you're like, this is someone who just got started mixing and they need to learn how to fix this.
If everything sounds thin, like it is thin and loud. Like, I mean, like they took out all of the low end and then they increased the highs and then like heavy compression. If it's not loud enough and distorted, I know that sounds crazy.
Gotcha. One thing I've noticed, I think sometimes people get addicted to some of these templates that are available online, and then they don't really tweak
Yeah,
them and whatnot.
yo, I don't understand the whole template thing, and I try not to speak out about it because again, we're business, we're entrepreneurs, so we're gonna have to sell templates. Hey, come on now. Yeah, the whole template game is misleading because you thinking that you're getting a sound from a template, and it's like, no, the template only works for the person who makes them. Like my template, I don't have a sound in the template. Okay, this is my workflow. This I could achieve what if I could achieve whatever sound I need quicker because I have the plugins that I'm going to use. I have my workflow, my routing, everything. It's to help me be more efficient. So I know like there was some people engineers where they were coming up and they would hear like the final product of whatever I was doing and be like, yo, can you make me an R&B template? Can you make me a this template? Can you make me a that template? And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, all right, send me $50. You know what I'm saying? And they have like and they'll be pissed because they'll have like a blank, like they'll have like they will have my plugins And the thing is, if you don't know what I'm thinking or why I'm using these things that I'm using, the misconception is that the music is just one size fits all, and you could just put it in a template and then it's gonna automatically sound good. It's like, no, you need to know what things sound like or what place they need to be in, and then you need to, make adjustments as needed. That's another reason why I can't, be hung up on a one plugin or like say these are my favorite plugins because if that plugin is available, I need to know what it's supposed to sound like and how I can make it sound like with the tools that I have. There's no template that's like mixed ready. I read some of these stuff like, yo, you can have this person sounds with this template. You will never have that person sounds. You can never have TZO sound because he's TZO. You can never have no one sound. You can never have Desmond sound. You can't have nobody's sound because it's they sound. Like you can't never have my sound. You could replicate it all you want, but like I said, the best thing that we have as creatives, as entrepreneurs, is our decision making. Once you master your decision making, like you can be unstoppable. Like I used to not give people my sessions or whatnot. I'll give anyone my sessions, and if we can sit there and talk about it, I could tell you why I did what I did. I love talking about it because I'll be excited about it. And then when I find someone who's equally excited about it, it's like, yo, you got to see what I did. They're like, why you do that? Like, let me tell you why I did that. Because this is what I love to do, but it's not gonna make you me. Now I'm not finding so much the engineers, it's more of artists that try to record themselves that are on templates.
Yeah.
When I find when I've tell the tall tale when I find an engineer that asks for a template or whatnot, then I was like, okay, now that person's an experience. Your sound code was changed. If you could capture right, you know what I'm saying? If you got good workflow, if you are working towards something, where you have good social skills, all right, you're gonna be good. You're gonna be good. Your sound is gonna evolve with you. The more you do it, the better you're gonna get.
What would you say has been your secret to longevity?
I ain't gonna even hold you. I don't even know how I'm still here. One thing I do know is that there's a lot of people that want to be in my position, but then and then it's like it's not that hard to be in my position or be past me. You have to be determined. If you want any type of success, you have to be determined. Then you have to do shit that you don't want to do. You got to sacrifice. So we have interns at the studio. I know what interns are gonna make and which ones aren't. And it's like, what are you willing to put up with? What are you willing to do? There's things that I have to put up with, and it's like I don't want to put up with it, but I have to put up with it. Especially if I want to continue to be in the position that I'm in. Delayed gratification. And that's something that I personally have an issue with. If I was in a different mindset when I was interning or like when I first got to Atlanta, I wouldn't be where I'm at now because when I first got here, I was just starting my life as an adult. And and then this was the first time like I'm alone. I didn't have no family or nothing. And so I was scared the whole time. I was at the studio the whole time because I didn't know what else to do. If I had more stuff going on, then I wouldn't be where I was at right now. I was unsure about where I was going. When I first got to Atlanta, I had two full-time jobs and I interned 2 days out the week. I was falling asleep in sessions. Like when I was sit in, I was falling asleep and then I would get in trouble. Instead of being like, oh man, these niggas don't understand. I gotta work or whatnot. I hit this smooth lick or whatnot. I was messing with this girl and she let me claim her kid on the taxes. I saved that money and I quit those two jobs. I was like, I'm gonna live off of this money and I'm gonna just intern. I had my car repossessed. They took my car because I stopped paying on it because I quit my jobs because interning was very important. I kept riding the bus back and forth to North Carolina. And I had to do runs on a bicycle and people laughed at me. I got hit by a fucking car. It, the thing is, you gotta go through shit, and in where I'm at now, I know I need to like I want to be further, but I'm like, okay, damn, I gotta go through some more shit. It's never easy. It's never easy, and anything that's easy, it comes at a cost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or it doesn't last long.
True, man, Evan, man, that was this powerful way to wrap things up, man. Your story is a lot of risk and reward, sacrifice, learning, tenacity, persistence, perseverance, and growth overall. That's the theme that I'm hearing in your story overall, man. So definitely appreciate you. And
For sure.
for all the listeners here, what projects do you have coming up that they should be on the lookout for? And also, how can people reach you online?
I'm actually in the middle of working on a project. So like I said, I started out as a producer. But then, my career, how I make money is engineering. But I'm in the middle of a project right now called 369. My old roommate, my best friend, my ninja Kenny, Kenneth Florence, he did a project 369 where he made a song and released it on SoundCloud every day for 369 days. Right? So for my 36 year, because this is year 36 for me, I said I'm going to do my 369 project where I release a song every year for 369 days. Today is day 13th. I did 12 days strong. But I'm gonna eventually be dropping like actual songs or whatnot, like songs that I've done with other people. So the goal is to, the goal is to drop every day on SoundCloud for 369 days, and we're on day 13th right now. I'm reaching out to people to collab with. Even if I don't collab, I'm still going to release something every day. So that's what I'm in the middle of right now. Yeah, but other than that, I don't have. Of course, I'm always dropping projects with artists as far as like mixing and stuff. I'm working with an artist named Willpower 912. He's a dope artist, dope songwriter, and a dope individual. I'm working with Lucky Leprechaun. He's one of my favorite artists to work with as well. I've been recording, mixing, and producing for him, and so a lot of the production that's out there in the world right now, my production is with Lucky Leprechaun. So me along with Corey Mo records him and produces him as well. So me and Corey Mo have been working with Lucky Leprechaun. We're about to release a project called Pot of Gold 7. This is going to be the seventh installment of Pot of Gold, and live from the closet, so we have two projects coming up with Lucky Leprechaun, but a lot of the stuff will be announced on my social media, which is I'm super active on Instagram. So if you want to reach out to me, you could message me at my name is underscore Evan. My name is Evan. I have a website, www.evanmelville.com. You can email me. If you get a hold of my number, you could call me. Calling me is the best thing that you could do. Calling me, you gotta get my number. I'm super accessible. Unless somebody be weird, but I'm working on being more active on other platforms. I need to, and this is the callback to what I was saying. We got to do more than just the work as far as like engineering. I got to do the content, and I gotta be, bring awareness to this industry and awareness to my brand. So I'm working on that right now. But yeah, Instagram is the best way to contact me.
For all the listeners out there, no matter where you see this episode, I'm going to have a link to all of Evan's stuff. So you can just click all the links in the description, check him out, support him, purchase all the different things he has, follow him. We need to support him in any way we see possible. All right. So, Evan, I want to thank you so much for being so generous with your time. You dropped a whole lot of gems. And do you have any last words of encouragement for the music community?
Oh man, keep doing it. So one thing that I'm learning during this 369 project is, being vulnerable and letting people hear your art. When I work with artists, one thing that I admire about them is when they're performing from a vulnerable place, and I admire that. So keep going, keep doing music, even if you suck. You can keep doing it and get better. Don't ever stop doing music, and don't think that if you do music, you can't do other things. You got to do other stuff. So I always say, just keep going, and, yeah, man, life is hard, life is suck. I hate that whole notion that, man, we gotta be adults or we gotta be here. Man, this is a fucking privilege. We waking up this morning is a privilege because niggas don't wake up. Just bask in the privilege of being alive and experiencing, and then create new experiences with new people. Keep going, keep doing the music, or do things that fulfill you.
Perfect, man. And once again, Evan, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing all those gems. And yeah, man, just thank you for being you and giving so much to the music game, music community. And thank you for sharing these gems.
Oh yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. This is an honor. I really appreciate you.